Hey everybody, welcome to Gaming with Vindicator, where we're building a city of Mikelsfjord. And a funny little thing happened in the last episode while I was recording this one. The mic did not pick up. My recording software malfunctioned for some reason, so this will be a voiceover, but I'm going to do my best to describe what's going on here. So, as you can see, in the last episode, we did a pretty good job, I think, of building up this medieval castle park slash UNESCO World Heritage Site slash medieval town on this mountain, and we're using the tools that we have at our disposal in vanilla. This episode will be building on this flat piece of land next door here. This will be the, whereas the old town is medieval, the new town is going to be a little bit more modern, and so it's going to be a nice extension of the older city. Now we're gonna need new transportation options in this area, so we'll be cutting a hole through this mountain, a new rail line, passenger rail, to connect up to this station up here, and we'll be bringing that all the way across and swooping down across the river here, and working to grade this and hopefully pop out over this direction, put our train station on this side. I think I have a perfect train station in mind for that, which will suit the aesthetic of this area. We're going to also put in a new highway through the back door there, so to speak, because we simply don't want to put too much traffic on that industrial road. But first, as usual, let's fix some of the mistakes that we made in the last episode. And so I know we have a bit of a challenge here with death care in Torrance Square. And one of the solutions will be, we'll just turn on the cemetery, which is finished emptying. We'll see if that fixes the problem, but I also want to bolster this capacity a little bit, and what we'll do is we'll add a little bit more capacity in the way of crematorium. Great, that should keep us going for a while. Now let's pop back here, and you'll notice there's some significant traffic. We'll take care of that, but first I noticed that I went a little crazy on the district here. Got a little sloppy. So this district has the no heavy truck traffic policy in effect, which I believe is blocking this arterial road here, which is a heavy industrial road serving the airport, our cargo airport. So obviously we got to clean that up so we can allow trucks to travel along this road. Great, so that looks a little bit better. The next thing we want to do, there's some interesting little engineering marvels here. I think it's a fantastic job that they did, building up this wall here. However, it's looking a little ridiculous. So we're going to remove some of these houses that we put in, only to get the power to jump across the road into the new medieval town. So we'll just clean some of these out. Is the power jumping? Yes, it still is. So we're gonna keep that little house on the main artery there. It'll be a sole little standalone box house there. Who knows who's living there, but hope they don't like peace and quiet. What else can we do here? Let's check out our bus lines. I believe I forgot to add some stops on both the orange and the yellow lines, so we're gonna get those in now. Okay, so that'll allow us some better transfer options, and we're going to take a look and see how these lines are actually doing. What we did on the Kyiv line here was we set up the minibus. There's our academic year report. Close it up. We set up our minibuses because, you know what, there's small streets here, medieval bends and twists and turns in the road. We've got some grades as well, so we thought it's probably not realistic to get full-size buses in here. We're just going to use the minibus, and although they only carry 20 passengers at a time, should do us for now. Although we do have a shortage here. We need another about 13 buses, so we're going to bump that up significantly to future-proof this area. We'll bump it at least up to 16, and we'll see how that goes for now. Hopefully these will clear out over time. It seems like everyone wants to get into the area, so hopefully once we move some of them in, they will not be a problem anymore. There's of course a big backup at this station here as well. This is the end of the line for the subway and the train station, and I think a bus line, so obviously it's a popular way to get into the cargo airport area, as well as the new Kyiv district medieval castle. How's this line doing? Yeah, it's still got some backups, so let's add some buses there as well. And yes, we've definitely got some heavy traffic here, so I think what we're going to do is upgrade this road. We can certainly use the capacity. Hopefully once we put in the backup highway line behind this this town, this should alleviate some of the passenger traffic that's trying to get into the city. You can see a lot of them turning there to go into the city. We'll just temporarily fix this by upgrading to a 6-lane road. You know, it's coming off a highway. It's technically not an issue to have that as an arterial. We'll just continue what we've done in the seaport area there with the 6-lane road. We'll just fix the power real quick. And we'll hope that future-proofs us for just a little bit, at least the rest of this episode. And I notice we've got some train backups there. We're definitely going to fix that up at some point. But first, let's fix this little vortex to the underworld here. Unfortunate little bit of, I don't know what you call that, clipping, is it? We'll see if we can play with that path to fix it up. Definitely don't love the way that looks. There's a new issue created. Let's see if we can maybe fix it by upgrading one more time, and hopefully that will... Yep, that looks pretty great. So that's that. I'm happy. Alright, so let's take a look at this pass. You know, we have already got a rail through here, which is helpful. It gives us a sense of where we want to maybe match the parallel rail. This is, of course, the national line. But we're keeping in Mikelsfjord our passenger and our cargo and our national line separate. I've had the misfortune of some really terrible train backups in previous games, and we are keeping them all separate so that we don't run into that issue. First thing we need to do is do a little bit of grading here and ensure that we don't have too steep of a grade for either our railway or our highway. And so we're going to make a bit of space for this parallel rail. Now I'm seeing that there is what looks like a little bit of a natural gully here, or a ravine that we could run a train line down. So we're gonna do something. We're gonna raise up the opposite side of this highway, and we'll go just high enough that we can cross the highway with a road. I think that's usually 9 meters, and so we'll count up 9 of these lines here, topographical lines, and just create a landing pad essentially. And we'll use this to start off our train crossing as well as our new highway interchange that we're going to put in here. And it will become clear soon why we're doing this. So we're going to use our slope terrain tool here. We're going to find a nice spot. In fact, I think maybe we need to smooth out some of this this other mess before we do anything else. So let's just bring that up a bit until we match the gully. It's looking good. We might need to go a little bit wider on that, since we are putting in both the highway and the rail. Now let's slope it right down. So again, we're working with the terrain that we have. You know, we're trying to be somewhat realistic in that we wouldn't just be punching holes anywhere we wanted in the terrain. We're trying to think about the cost here. We're trying to use nature, what nature's given us already, and I think that makes for a more interesting play experience too. Now this is definitely a bit of a tricky part because I want to go under those existing train lines and pop out in the side of the hill there. We're going to try to cross, come up somewhere here and cross the road, cross the river as well, at hopefully the shortest point, one that makes sense, and also do it in a way that that allows us to curve and connect back into the end of that existing passenger rail line that really goes right across the map currently. So we'll start, I think, by just laying down some guide rail and seeing where that lands us, because it's pretty hard to do this just by eyeballing it, but once you get some guides down, you know where you're crossing, you know which direction you're going, and you can check out your bridges and see that they make sense. That actually turned out almost perfectly. Looks good. I do see that we have a little bit of terrain here, so we want to make sure we're taking that into account. And on this side we want to kind of come right under, pop out there with the tunnel, and then we're going to try to slope this down a little bit better. So I think that's basically the curve that we want to use. We're going to come down the hill and slope at the same time. We're going to have to do a little bit of a curve underground on the top of that hill. But I think this is going to turn out really well. I think we can get a parallel highway beside that rail line. Let's try it out now. Off to a good start. I love that curved road tool. It's so helpful for making smooth connections when they're not exactly equal distance from each other. So trying to stay as tight as I can to the existing rail as far as I can, and then maximize the space that we have available. This would cost a lot of money to grade this, to punch a hole in the mountain, to even get workers up here. It would be very challenging. So we're just going slow, doing it right, and of course, hey, I'm a perfectionist, so I'm gonna probably do this and do it over again. So now we're going to work to get in the 2-lane highway. This is just a small capacity highway. It's a backup way to get into this area. It's going to carry a lot more traffic once we start building up this city, once we start zoning out every possible space. And we don't really have the demand for that yet, but we'll create it. It will come. And we're basically future-proofing this again. We want to make sure that there's a way to get in and out that's not just an industrial road. Yep, it looks pretty good. Nice and smooth. I think it's going to work out great. I noticed there's some real jumps in that national train line. I think maybe it wasn't inspected very closely, which is fine. We can always fix it. So I'm noticing it's not exactly at the angle that I wanted it to be. I'd like for this road to come and plug in right into that junction there, but again, future-proofing, I know that this is going to be a little busy, especially once we put a new settlement in this area. So what I'm going to do is we're going to put a roundabout in here, and it's going to be a bit of a trick, not going to lie. It's 3 and soon 4 very odd angles, so not going to be opposite from each other. So we're going to have to get a little creative about how we make this roundabout perfect. Yeah, I'm already seeing that's probably not going to work very well. And there's a bridge we'll have to fix. I'm going to have to try something a little bit different to make this roundabout work, and we'll get it. So what I'm doing here is just measuring out 5 units with the curved road tool. And we're going to put a little side junction off of this, only in order to put a node there, so that when I delete the extended roads, I'll have the perfect length of a road. Now I should be able to do my freeform road and join the ends of this. Let's see how it goes. Cross our fingers. There you have it, folks. A perfect circle with the nodes in exactly the right place to connect up to these existing roads. So hopefully we don't mess it up. I think we've done it. We've put the roundabout in the right place. Boy, when you're running vanilla, you sure have to get creative in how you create things to be symmetrical. I don't mind. This is actually a lot more fun, I think, than using Move It. It's a little bit of height there. I'm not sure that matters. There's no issue with grade. I might just leave it as is. Yeah, fantastic. It's a couple of nice sweeping curves. Actually, kind of looks nice on a map, Now the challenge is getting the rail line to run in a way that's makes sense and is sort of parallel to the existing road. So we might have to do a bit of rejigging here. Yeah, that might not be a bad location to cross the river. It's still at a narrow point. It's not perfectly in the middle of that bend, but we can't have perfection all the time, can we? So what I'm doing here is I'm just running the line on the ground as close as I need to the road, so I can just get the guideline. That way I can pop up by the minimum height, which is I think 9 meters usually to get across. And we're gonna cross and go, keep this line as straight as possible. I like to go down 3 meters every 10 units. Seems to be a nice slope, at least for rail. And that gives us this really nice, perfect sort of grade for our trains. And now how to connect this up to the other rail. And we do want to continue straight on there to allow us to put another town in this area. Of course I want a rail yard in there. I'm a big rail fan, and so we're going to leave our options open for passenger rail. Probably won't need any cargo up there, but definitely want to be able to send passenger trains in that direction. The challenge now, of course, is how do we cross the road and link up? Well, that might give us a node or a length that works. I prefer to find a slightly better angle at the end point there, but it's going to be very tricky with those pillars. Let's see what we can do. We'll see what happens if we come at this from the opposite side, because it's giving me a lot of trouble going from the other way. Oh, and noticing we've got some height issues here, so let's do maybe a bit of grading. So no getting lucky today, we'll just have to eyeball it just a little bit, freeform it, and actually that might work out just perfectly. There we go. Just a little small segment to bridge the gap, or we'll rebuild it. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it works. It's not a terrible connection. How's a bridge? That didn't turn out too poorly at all. I mean, okay, no, there's a bit of a slopey section there. We'll have to fix that. And I think the other thing we want to do is, this is a navigable waterway, so at least up to here where it starts to get a little high, maybe some rapids there, but I think we're going to want to maintain at least the option to keep a ferry line running down this river. So let's get that in now and make sure that our bridges are high enough to clear so we don't have to rebuild them later. So we've already got an issue of this existing bridge being a little too low. I think there's no other thing we can do but rebuild it a little bit. Will that fly? Well, let's see if we can get our ferry line underneath it. Yes, success. And we just happened to luck out with this bridge that it was high enough that we can send the ferry line underneath. How do we like that bridge? It's not terrible, it's just a little bit steep, and I think we will have to even this grade out here. That's much better on that side. This other side's a little bit wonky as well, so we'll see if we can smooth that out. And I'm just thinking in hindsight now, I could just click the button now and it would perfectly level itself, but I think what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to measure it out and divide it, do the math in my head on how far down I need to go. But as long as you're not connecting to ground level, it won't give you a funky like one segment that's just super weird length and then or height rather. Anyway, I should have clicked the button is what I'm trying to say. How does that look? No, it kind of dives down a little bit at that one pillar. Let's see if we can fix it up a little bit. Yes, not terrible. It's a reasonable angle. That's pretty good. I think that's just about what I had anyway, but I think we can live with that. It's looking okay. Yeah, boy, I do love train bridges. That's beautiful. Alright, what's next? Do we have everything connected? Yes, up till there anyway. So next step will be to work out where we're going to put our train station. And of course we want to make sure that we're planning ahead, so we're going to probably think about where we want to cross on both these segments of rivers. I think I might just send in a guide road and use that as my planning road. We want to cross somewhere where the river is narrow to save money on bridging costs. And then we want to figure out where we're crossing the highway as well. This is complex and complicated because we have multiple different crossings that we need to make. And I'm noticing we've got a little power issue over here, so let's check that out. What's going on here? We still have an excess of supply. This has happened to us before in an earlier episode, and I'm back to my theory here that power lines can only carry a maximum capacity, or maybe we're losing power over distance. So although we're producing enough power, it's just not arriving at the end state. No other power issues up here. What do we want to do? I suppose we don't have a choice but to put in a new power plant. The question is, what kind and where? We've definitely got the money for it. And I know it looks like we're losing money regularly here, but the great news is that every once in a while our industries pull through for us and dump a bunch of cash into our bank account. So we're doing just fine, and our coffer should actually be growing. So I guess the power issues are fine now. I think it has something to do, it has something to do with the time of year and the temperature. I believe, since it's getting a little cooler now, it's only 15 degrees Celsius, people are starting to use the electricity for heating. That's an interesting mechanic of the game. They're not using natural gas or something like that. So when it gets colder, we burn more electricity in Mikelsfjord, and there's a way to fix that. We can set up heating plants and set a policy that prevents people from using electricity for heating. We've done that in one of our high-tech neighborhoods, but we're not going to mess around with that and make that a city-wide thing. It's just not on our agenda right now. So just trying to figure out where to cross this that will help us to line up with the next crossing. We want the train station sort of close to the middle of town, close to the medieval area. We want to be far enough away from the rail line so that we can actually put in these on-ramps. Because if we're next to the rail, now we can't put an on-ramp. So we're going to see where it makes sense to cross. We're going to have to back this road off a bit because, well, it'll become clear in a minute, but we can't have the road going right through the center of this piece of open land. It won't allow us for a train station that will allow us to cross. So we're just going to see what we can do here about curving this road down a bit. So I think that angle will work. What I'm trying to do here is be in a reasonable spot to connect the new highway on the hill and level off so that we can actually touch the ground and connect to the roads in this area, and keep it straight so that it's going to connect with the other bridges to the south of here. It's a lot of moving parts, and so there's a lot of thinking involved, but I kind of like these puzzles. It allows me to exercise the OCD part of myself and figure out what's the best move. So I've decided to back off that existing road. I want to be straight with this highway, this collector here, and we will curve the other side roads in order to get this in. But now I want to create a crossroad that will connect to that road attached on the left there to the ferry depot, and also be in a spot to cross the river to our right there. So there's a lot of moving pieces here. I'm sure I could just sort of wing it and play it by ear, but I'd rather that this sort of end up in a thoughtful, elegant way that's a solution that not just works but looks good too. So I think actually, I'll take the 90 degrees here. It's a good place to cross the river on the right side there. This road will tie in, in a reasonable way. I think this is shaping up, and admittedly, sometimes you just have to play. You just have to lay down some roads and see how you like them. I kind of wish I had some planning roads. I suppose I could be using dirt roads, but as you can see, we're no shortage of cash here, so I don't need to save the 10 cells. And now let's see which station we want to get in. Now this is definitely an option. We'd get 4 stops there, but I think there's one of the creator pack train stations here. They call it it's in the hub section, but I'm not sure what it's a hub about. I think there's only rail involved here, but this old market station is, in my mind, perfect for this area. Right? It ties in with the medieval theme. There was this ancient market here. They built a train station on top because maybe the space was tight. I think it's going to fit the aesthetic nicely. It's obviously more modern than the medieval part of town, which makes sense since we're building the more modern, not a sister city, but the more modern neighborhood attached to this old medieval castle. So I've put the train station on the collector now. I don't like to do that. I don't want to dump all that traffic there. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually reversing it around, just so that we've put the road in the right spot. We've now got our side road in. We can start connecting up the roads, and this is going to essentially form our grid of the city. Now that we have this train station, that's the anchor of this area. And now that we've got our connecting road, we can slope the rest of the collector in a more logical way, and just measuring out a little bit here, making sure that I'm going down in the appropriate amount of grade for the length that we have. I'm just going to measure here. Looks like 16, I think. So it's not a perfectly even grade, but that looks pretty darn good. We're gonna keep that. I think that looks passable. Next thing we want to do is let's connect up the final bit of rail here, and obviously we have 4 different double tracks, which is lovely for all this capacity, but it does make connections slightly difficult. But I have a plan. Trust me, I have a plan. Have we crossed high enough? Yeah, I think it's okay. Now we will have to back that rail off just a little bit in order to get a better connection, but hey, we can do that. We'll make that work. I don't love digging into the hill even more, but it has to happen. If we want a smooth, non-insane curve, then yeah, we got to do a bit more work to make that happen. That's a pretty good line. It'll make for a nice smooth turn. Trains will have to slow down here, of course. Going up against gravity, but going down, it's there's that curve. We wouldn't want them to flip over and fall onto the highway. That would be bad. So, okay, well, we are connected now, at least with one line, to the rest of the main network. Now it's time to connect up these little side lines. What do they call these? Trunk lines? Hoping for nice, smooth connections here. As much length as we can give the trains so that they don't get backed up. As few crosses over the highway as we can muster. Bridges are expensive, so let's not use more than we need to. I think that'll do. That's looking quite nice. Yes, that makes sense too. We can have trains that are not stopping here fly right through the station. That's, come to think of it, that's probably not realistic. You wouldn't allow trains that aren't actually stopping at the station to fly through one of the bays of the station, but you'd have them probably go on the outside. But hey, this is a game. So here we are planning for the future, making sure that we can continue across the rest of these rivers, in between the mountains. There's lots more good land in that direction. I have pretty big plans for a major industrial center down there. There's lots of natural resources down there. There's prime fishing oceans over there. So yeah, it's coming together. There's a lot of thinking and a lot of angles and a lot of curves and a lot of crossings involved in this build, but hey, I love a good challenge, and it's starting to take shape. I'm really happy with the way it's starting to turn out. Definitely have some work to do, but it's coming. It's coming. All right, what's next? Yeah, we've got to figure out a crossing over this river that makes sense. And of course, because we've got to go up and curve at the same time, this is kind of like every vanilla builder's nightmare, is the up and curve at the same time. But we're gonna do it. It's gonna work. And while I think of it, let's put in an extension on this ferry line, because there's still plenty of good river to be had to allow for our boats. Boats are fun, right? All these transportation options are fun. This may not be the most realistic thing that would happen. You maybe would not put boats all the way down, but it's fun to watch them go and let them do their thing. And people actually use them in the game, and so why not? If we have the another mode of transportation, let's keep people off their cars, out of their cars. And here I'm just measuring 6 from the midpoint of that ferry line so that I can get a span of bridge that is 12 long, which is the max in vanilla, and that sort of sits right in the middle of that ferry, and those pillars are not in the way of that ferry line. Although I think we may have a bit of a challenge here. I'm not sure that's going to be feasible, so we'll try it again. Okay, we have a bit of a height issue, but we can fix that. What I'm going to do is run a parallel bridge so that I have the nodes. And I can delete the original one, and I can put in a new one, which is at a more reasonable height. It's pretty high. I don't know if these ferries are realistic heights. They do come up quite high in the water, especially with that like mast that sticks out. It makes for a difficult bridging, but I think we probably have enough height here. So I think what I'm going to do is just make the connection. Of course, that's going to be a funky grade, but what I can do now is that little node in the middle there can build a little guide road off of it, and we'll use that as a indicator of where we need to be when we actually do the next phase of our road. I'll show you what I mean. So we'll back this off and we'll do it again, now with our guidelines. Just about equal distance, which is great. So now you see what I can do. I can curve that and be exactly the midpoint. Not perfect. That's not the greatest grade in the world. I think I want to fix it. So we'll try that again from the opposite side. 3 ticks might be too much. It's never going to be perfect, but I think I can live with that. It's not a roller coaster. That might actually happen in real life, that type of grade. Of course, I speak from no experience as an engineer at all. I'm guessing. Sort of the secret to my whole success in life is just guess. When in doubt, make it up. So what I'm doing here is just putting in a guide road for future reference. I deleted that segment so that we don't have, it actually made a dam, and we'd have significant flooding, I think, if we left it there. So we're just letting it do its thing. We're going to continue eventually up this coastline here, nice flat land, and end up over there where all the oil and the resources are. I'm really tempted to put a fishing industry there, like a seriously a busy one. Can't wait. Lots of good fish out there. So I think we're connected now. We can delete these little guide roads in the middle of the roundabout here. Very pleased with how this is turning out. It's making a lot of sense to me. And I think what we can do now is we can actually pull this train line over. This is the train line that runs essentially across the entire map, east-west now. So we're going to pull it all the way down to the new station. And we won't put it on the pass-through line. We'll put it off to one of the side branch lines there. Now, of course, we've got to go back and re-establish these stops here in this university station. I think we call it Valhalla Station. All right, there we go. Now we've added a significant amount of length to that line. It's probably going to add a few more trains onto the line. We'll have to check that and see how it's doing, but not until we actually get some people living in this area, because at the moment, probably not very many people will take the train. Yes, some that want to get to the Kyiv district, some that are going to the park, the castle, but really we're definitely short on residential spaces now. We've got a lot of demand. I'm going to put them into the city we produced last build. We haven't quite fully fleshed this out, so we'll just add just a little bit, just a reasonable amount of residential. And of course, I'm doing this high density because this is a medieval castle area. It's been sitting here for centuries, this town. Of course, it's tight, inside these medieval walls, there's not a lot of space. Real estate would be at a premium, so of course you got to build up. The real reason I'm doing this is because it just looks silly with low density buildings. It looks way better with the European themed assets that are with the base game, but look a little bit more believable as a medieval town. So what we've done now is, I think, just about obliterated our residential demand. I think we're going to see that go to zero probably. However, I still have my my single-minded obsession with putting in a new residential area here. This is going to be low density. This is not a built-up area. This is more like not a suburb, but a smaller annex to the medieval town. And I like the way that the road structure has already been given to me by the train station. We've got a road running right into that entrance of the train station. I'm gonna do probably a 15 unit grid. I think that's 15 by 11, and we're just gonna grid it out. This is nothing. There's no topography to contend with here. We don't need to get fancy. We might do a little bit of windy roads along the shoreline, but otherwise, no. It's just we're just getting housing in here. Here's where we're going to want to curve it a little bit. We've run out of space to grid, so we'll just do a little bit of respecting the topography, as they say. Oh, and we have our first train arriving at this new station, which we still don't have a name for. We're going to have to fix that. Anyone interested in throwing one up in the comments? And of course, we do want to create a district here before we start zoning this out, and we get a lot of people build their houses here, and then we decide to change the district style. We don't want that, so we're gonna fire in a grid district here, and let's see what policies we want. Let's think about the character that we want for this city. Umber district. No, I don't think that's gonna work, so we're gonna replace that. For now, I think. It's just we'll do something a little bit obvious. We'll call it New Kyiv. And I'm missing a few styles, so that's odd. I'll have to fix that in the next episode. But we'll leave it default style, I think. Recycling, yes. Water usage, yes. We'll be a little bit ecological here. Smoke detectors, yep. I don't think we want education boosts. We're looking for employees for the factory areas, for the airport, for the seaport. We don't need bookworms, brainiacs. highly educated university students. We will do prefer ferries, so we can put more people on that ferry line, less people on the roads. Let's see, what do we need here? High-rise band, sure. Anything else? Yeah, always love the workers' union, so that it doesn't really cost us much, but it does increase happiness, which in turn increases, at least in theory, increases the land value, which gives us more taxes. Can't complain about that. What else can we put in here? It'd be nice to put a little bit of a special building. We'll have to figure out what makes sense. I'm looking for a park. Will that fit in there? No, it's probably gonna be too big, and I'm not sure that it makes sense to put the winter market here. I want to save that for something that actually makes sense. So what that will be, I don't know. We'll figure that out someday. What else have we got here? Stadium, no. Park? Statue of shopping, no. Friendly neighborhood park, fountain of life and death. Let's see maybe what that looks like. We'll do that kind of close to the train station so that that noise is combined with the existing noise of the train station. A little bit off the way here. Sure, why not? We did have a bit of space for pathways, so let's get that in behind here. It's always a nice thing to do that just adds a little more walkability to the city. So how are we going to finish up this grid? Let's think about this. Is that 15 length? We do want to cross here and give ourselves the option to have more settlement, more development on the other side of this tiny little river here. Although I think based on where our road is pointing, we might need to adjust the flow of this river just a little bit. Maybe not 100% realistic, but it seems like an easy fix in the game, so we're just going to do it. Seems to me that, yeah, that's going to work out great. That'll work fine. I wonder if maybe that far bank is just a little bit high compared to the other side. We'll have to see how that's going to work out. Now this is not a navigable waterway, so we don't need to go high enough to let ferries cross by or anything like that. It can be a fairly flat bridge. As long as it's not going to get flooded out, I think we're okay. Yeah, I think that should do it. That's plenty of clearance. And it allows us to develop another area of this town if we decide that we need it. Yeah, that's exactly 15 units, so we lucked out with our length here. Maybe it's meant to be. I think it turned out. You know, we're not quite done yet, but it's certainly shaping up. Right, one thing I forgot to do is put in the connections for this interchange. We definitely want to add an opportunity to get onto the highway at this stage rather than going all the way around the castle, the hillside there. Now, of course, you see we have a problem. We just don't have the kind of space we need to go under those rail lines or cross the rail lines. So I have a little bit of a cunning plan. I hope you'll agree that this is going to make sense. So I'm raising up the land underneath it here, just far enough so that we can actually put in a tunnel here. Of course, is this realistic in real life? No. But in the game, the mechanics are such that we can have a tunnel make a much easier grade than a road. At least it looks less silly. So just bear with me. You're going to figure out what I'm trying to do here. We'll do a similar thing on this side. But this won't be a tunnel, this will just be a grade for a road, a slip road to, what do you call this, an on-ramp to gently connect to that highway there. On this side we will need a tunnel to cross the rail. So we'll give ourselves a nice smooth slope here. And yeah, it's coming together. We will have to back off the existing, we call that an on-ramp, that's on the left there. It's way too long anyway. We don't need it to be that long. So we'll just have to play with this for the moment. We'll have to turn off angle and we'll just turn off everything for the time being. And we'll see if we can make this work. So I'm seeing we have maybe a problem with our node. It's not quite far enough away from the existing highway. Unfortunately, you know, we don't have a vertical embankment there. It does slope, so let's see if we can maybe sneak it through, but I think we might need to back off that node a little bit. Yeah, it's just not really cooperating. So I hate to do this because I'm worried it's gonna screw me up, but I don't know if we have much of a choice. I think we've got to extend this collector 4-lane road a little bit in order to get a node that's just slightly farther back from the highway in order to allow us to go underground. So I'm just gonna go the very bare minimum length here and hope I didn't completely screw this up. I hope that gives us a node that works. Just flattening it out here so that we can actually get this tunnel to get its own start. And then once we have the tunnel, there's a ray of hope. Once we have the tunnel started, and there's our report, we can level this off again and hopefully get a nice smooth angle. So again, I've come out just far enough under those 4 train tracks. Not sure about that angle. We're gonna try that again. This should be a little bit more of a helpful. Yeah, I think we're on the right direction here. Our aim is true. So we'll see if we can finish that up with the freeform road tool and go as far as we can, which is to say terminating before the other rail line. Yeah, that looks cool. I think it's okay. A little tricky, I think, on my part to use the tunnels to get under there, but I just didn't see another alternative since the rail and the highway are so close together. I just didn't see an alternative, so I'm gonna bring this one out just a little bit as well, and hopefully that'll give us another perfect node that allows us to do what we just did earlier on the opposite side. And hey, it looks like we didn't even need that more distant node, so we'll just carry it on this way. We'll have to check that this actually looks good after this, but I'm hopeful. Hopeful this is gonna work. And we'll just have to go a little bit further here and connect again as close as possible we can to that pillar. That'll do it. Of course, we'll have to switch all those directions around, but yeah, that actually looks okay too. Does this happen in real life? I really don't know. Can't say that I've seen something happen like this, an off-ramp that goes into a tunnel, but you know, I have probably done it before. You know, there's plenty of underground stuff in Montreal, if I recall. Anyway, this one should be easier. This is there's no underground section necessary. We're just gonna go straight on. Yeah, not sure what I'm thinking there. Definitely don't need to go underground. But I just love tunnels so much. Okay, that's another one. Looks smooth, I like it. We pre-graded that, which was very wise of us. Of course, now we have this existing road that's just way too long. So we're gonna back that off significantly by about half. Connect it up at a point that you know is way farther back. Maybe that's parallel to the opposite side of the road. Doesn't that make sense? And that'll give us a lot more space to connect our new on-ramp. Quite pleased with myself. Getting in, what are we getting in here? We're getting in an on-ramp, a new collector, a new highway to another part of town. We're getting in a rail line, which branches off in a number of different directions. A new train station. We've got our ferry line serving this area. We are not hurting for transit options in this city, which is great. I'm a big fan of the transit, you know, not just for like real life purposes, but it's fun in the game, you know, to watch all these sims use your systems. I love it. That was a pretty sweet eyeballed angle, if I do say so myself. And we'll bring this out just as far as we can. And of course, we're sneaking. We're definitely sneaking this between the wall and the highway here, but doing a pretty good job of it, I think. Not to toot my own horn too much, but this build is turning out. It's really turning out. Great. Okay, is that the best looking highway interchange? No, not by a long shot. Of course, we got some weird stuff happening with the flood wall there / castle wall. Can't really fix that in vanilla. I should probably take those trees out against the wall, but that's something for another day. Just check our directionality here. That's fine. This one needs to be moved around. I think I missed a little segment underground there. I'll have to fix that. There we go. I think we are functional. Oh, just got to connect this little piece. Didn't end up needing that little stub road. Didn't need to back it off. Good. Simple is better. Yeah, there we are. Connected. I think we're now 100% connected with road and rail. We've got our highway interchange functional. We've already seen some cars on there. I'm going to add just a little bit of a collector here so that we get some additional lanes, turning lanes to get onto the highway, straight lanes to go straight. Looking good. What else do we need to do here? How's that grade? It's interesting. It's not perfect, but I'll allow it. Wish I could use Move It to bump that junction up just a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna clean this up. Reclaim as much usable space as we can. That side's pretty fine. We don't need to mess with it. How are we doing over here? Yeah, that's looking great. It's looking very compact, very tight. I like it. So I do want to get in some services here. You know, I love to have in every residential area an elder care facility, the child care, obviously fire and police, a little garbage collection, little death care, a clinic. So we're going to figure out where it makes sense to put all of these things. Very tough to get any big buildings into the old city, of course. So we might want to move a lot of this stuff, a lot of these services into the new city. But where? We definitely want this to be shared with the neighboring old Kyiv, so to speak. Seems like a reasonable place for a clinic. Trying to get these centrally located so that we can serve as much of an area as possible, of course. Also trying not to waste land. Don't want to put this in a spot that's going to block development. What else do we have here? Sauna, community pool. This is not going to be a super ritzy neighborhood, so I don't want to spend a ton of money if I don't have to. What else can we get in here? Yeah, centrally located. And of course we'll get some pipes under the road. And we'll figure out a way to bring the electricity over here. And I'm seeing the finish line. I'm seeing that we're getting close to being able to zone this out, watch it develop, and start receiving new passengers on our rail line here, down our highway. Very exciting. I notice we have a bit of a water capacity issue too. Our sewers are not doing too poorly, but we're on the borderline here for water availability. It's coming together, and now I just want to extend this road network a little bit. We have an opportunity to zone some land over here. We just need our angle on. Probably all those guidelines are not helping, but yeah, we'll get this in as far as we can go without impacting that seawall there. Trying to get a 90 with the collector, failing, but it's good enough. I think we'll tuck this flood wall in just a little bit more. It'll kind of look like the wall was complete at one time, and maybe they demolished part of it to get this road in here. You know, long ago they would have needed to come down to the water to do their bathing and their washing and getting their water to drink. So there would have been at least a little bit of a space in the wall. Can't forget our post office. That's definitely important. You can see there's a bit of a little downtown hub developing here, community hub here. And here we go with the zoning. We'll put in commercial along the collector, of course. I'm not gonna go too far because we do have some demand for that, but you can see the residential demand was pretty much eaten up by us throwing in all of that high density residential on the west side there. How's the noise? How far can we actually go? That station creates a lot of noise, if I recall, so we're gonna put a little bit more commercial next to it. Citizens living there would not be happy. And I think we're going a little overboard with the commercial here. This will fill out eventually. I'm just trying to get it all earmarked along the collector. Because really you can't have people living on that street. You could, I suppose, if it's quiet enough, if it's low density, low traffic. So we have that one park in there that's actually a unique building, the fantastic fountain. I do want to get in another park here, centrally located, so that's why I'm moving things around. It's perfect, fits nicely. And one more dog park. Good. That should make everybody happy. What else? Yeah, I think a plaza somewhere in the middle here can't hurt. Boy, I wish I could fix that road. That's just bugging the hell out of me. That's not 90 degrees off the collector, but well, we'll come back and fix that at a later date. I hate to run a special line for this, but you know, I don't think we have the demand to get buildings to populate there, so connect them up, and there goes the power. We are powered up. All right, things are coming together. What's next? Let's finish zoning out this area. We want to go residential with the rest of this, low density. You know, I think this might actually be quite a nice place to live. We'll leave ourselves just a little right of way there for a road in the future. We might want to bridge that gap again for a backup connection across the river. And what about back here? Do we want to put in another road? It does seem like a logical thing to do. Can we get under all these rail lines under the highway, I wonder? I'm not sure that we could. I'm not sure that we need to. We'll think about that later. And we're gonna add some sound barriers here. I think if you're living next to the road there, it might get a little bit noisy, so we'll give people a little bit of a break and spring for those sound walls. And we'll leave them a nice little forested area back there too. They can go for a walk in the woods or whatnot. Yeah, before we finish, let's see what these bus lines are doing. It kind of makes sense to think about another line. Ooh, this is quite well trafficked with 170 plus riders every week. Not seeing any backups here. Some of the buses are toward full. Yeah, there's a little backing up there. Where is that? Is that, I'm guessing that, oh, that's right here. Going into town, so they're transferring there. You know, I'm wondering if at some point it would make sense to bring in a higher capacity, I don't know, maybe a subway in here. We do have the rail line now, so that should alleviate some traffic, but I wonder if a lot of these people are coming from their jobs in the industrial area and getting on those minibuses, so we shall see. So I think now it makes sense to add an additional line. We're gonna need a new service to serve the new area. But before I do that, I want to extend this existing line out to take people up to as far as the train station. And yeah, it'll have to come on the other side, only because that's where the entrance is. And it looks like we're having power issues again. I wonder if I've broken a line? No, it looks like there's a shortage in the whole grid. We're gonna have to figure that out. Let's check it out. So what do we want to do here? Do we want to go crazy and put in a 480 megawatt ocean thermal energy conversion plant? Maybe. We can think about that. Do we want another nuclear power plant? Go for the big guns? Probably not. That's probably overkill. You know, we're just on the cusp here. I'm not planning any major power sucking developments. Geothermal could work. Solar, hard to go wrong with that. You can basically place that anywhere. Do we want another updraft? And if so, where? I don't want to centralize all my power because you hit a disaster and that takes out your whole power grid. not that we have disasters on in this build, but I still like to think about putting things in diverse locations. I think maybe a power plant right here would do it. And the solar updraft has a bit more capacity. We've got the money, so why not? You know, it's eco-friendly. It perhaps doesn't look the nicest. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but you probably wouldn't want to be staring at that if you're a farmer. Who knows? All right, so I think we fixed our power problems. What's next? Should I pause this? Yes, let's do it. Right, we were doing a bus line. So let's see what makes sense. We're essentially going to want to be funneling people to the new train station, possibly get them as far as the ferry. That would probably make sense as well. But for now, we're just going to run down this collector, and it's going to be a simple circular route. We don't need to go too far. I think people can generally walk 2 blocks to a bus, so we don't need to do anything crazy. This is a real simple line. I'm going to take them in a loop. I think that might be it. Yeah, just get them to the train station. They can transfer to the other bus line if they want to. They can get on the train and get downtown or to the industrial area. You know, I've noticed since the airport's DLC that this allow intercity trains button is broken. I know there is a mod that allows you to fix that. Maybe you have to go get that. But for now, it doesn't matter. Intercity trains can't get to this station anyway. We've separated our national and our regional lines, so we're fine. Let's see how many people are on this train. 27. Okay, so the train's at about 10% capacity. That's certainly going to increase as we have more people moving into this area, and as you know, as the game figures out through pathfinding that hey, there's another way to get here that maybe doesn't involve clogging up the industrial road that was previously the only way to get in. So it's looking good. This is Kyiv district is filling out a little bit. Got some small fixes I need to do with the roads here. We'll get to that. I don't think I'm going to work on that today, but I'm thinking it's turning out. I kind of like the way it's looking. So we've done a good thing. We've added a new community here, which is a counterpoint to the existing medieval hilltop town. We've given people lots of new transportation options, a new highway connection, the rail line. We've given ourselves the ability to expand in the future. I certainly have some plans coming up to expand to the south of this area here. Let people come all the way down here, and we'll start expanding over this direction, and there's some fun stuff coming for that part of the world. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please hit the like button, and if you want to know about future episodes, just click that notification bell, subscribe, and you'll know when I get a new episode out. Thanks again for watching.